Do you need a Rococo inspired choker in your life? Maybe for a cosplay, historical costume or lolita outfit? Then stay tuned to learn how to do this easy 10-minute project with either ruffles or pleats. What you'll need: fabric. It is best to use a lightweight fabric. I will be using a gold organza for the ruffled look and a red taffeta for the pleated look. Ribbon, matching thread, tape measure, a ruler too if you have one handy, chalk marker or heat erasable pen, pins, scissors, iron and ironing board, and a sewing machine, though if you don't have one you can sew this by hand. Let's begin. Firstly, start off by measuring around your neck. I'm 35 centimeters or 14 inches. Then decide how wide you want your choker to be. I want mine to be quite wide, so I decide on 7 centimeters. Now for some maths. I write down my two measurements. For the length, I times it by 3 to get 105 centimeters, but add 3 centimeters so it is going to include the side seam allowances. For the width, I times it by 2 as it's for the front and the back, and then add another 2 centimeters to allow for a very thin seam allowance. These measurements are the same regardless of whether you're doing the ruffle or the pleated look. Next, I measure out a rectangle that is 16 centimeters by 108 centimeters ish. That is 6¼ inches by 42½ inches ish. There is a bit of give and take with this project. Once this has all been measured out, use your marker and a ruler if you have one to draw it all out, then grab your scissors and cut it out. At the sewing machine, line up the edges of the long side of the rectangle and sew it with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. That's 3/8 of an inch. If you're newer to sewing, pin along this edge before you start sewing. You will end up with a tube of fabric. Take your tube and turn it right side out. You should be able to do this just with your fingers, but if you're struggling, you can always use a loop turner or a safety pin to help. Once the tube is turned, ensure the seam line is in the middle and then tuck the raw edges on the ends into the tube by about 1 centimeter or so and pin it. Then sew each of the ends closed. Then give the tubes a really good press and ensure that the seam is right in the middle. You can see I did the same for the red taffeta too. Lastly, before we split off into the two designs, we need to prep the ribbons. I cut my ribbons at 1 meter, but you can cut them as long or as short as you like. I personally find 1 meter or a little over a yard if you prefer that unit of measurement seems to do the job brilliantly. For the gold organza, I am using a gold ribbon which I cut the ends off in a slant, and then I find the middle point and the 2 points either side of that which makes up my neck measurement. For the black ribbon, which I'll be using on the red taffeta, I cut those edges as devil forks. A good tip here is to burn the edges of the ribbon to ensure that it doesn't fray. I also mark the center of the black ribbon. Now it's time to split and discuss the two different looks. Let's start off with completing the golden ruffle look. With the seam still facing towards you, find the center point of the tube. Put a pin in it. Then use that point and the end to find the quarter points. Use a pin to mark the placement of that too. Then grabbing your ribbon, use the pins you have already put in there to find the quarter points on the ribbon. Then it's just a matter of matching up the pins. Start from the center points and work outwards. Then to help with equal ruffling, once the ribbon and the tube are pinned together at the points, find the center points again and pin those together too. Repeat this process on the other side as well until you have something that looks like this. Over at the sewing machine, sew down one side of the ribbon. You can see here that I started with the right side. Work in small sections of the ribbon between the pins. Gather the tube under the ribbon and then sew to the next pin. This will make it easier to control and you can play with the placement of the tube fabric before you sew it down. Continue this process along the entire length of the ribbon, working between each of the pins. Once you have finished the first side, go back and sew down the other side. This will be a lot easier because it's all been gathered down. And with that, the Ruffled Choker is complete. Let's now move on to the pleated look. Grab your tube and pleat it down, pinning it in the center. I'm doing a box pleat here, but a single pleat with all the pleats going in the one direction also works a treat. It is a good idea to try and do the pleats as small as you can. For me, I'm doing these at about 1.5 centimeters with each fold, so each box pleat is about 3 centimeters, or a little over an inch. Once it's all pinned, you should notice it's roughly the length of your neck measurement. If it's a little bit shorter, that's even better. Over at the sewing machine, lock these pleats into place by sewing them along the already existing seam line. Next, give the pleats a really good iron to make sure those pleats are super crisp. Then find the middle point of your pleats and then connect it with the middle point of your ribbon. Then work outwards and pin the ribbon down along the pleats. Over at the sewing machine, sew the ribbon down on both edges of the ribbon. And there you go, 2 versions of a cute and easy choker that will add a pinch of pizzazz to your next outfit. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a like, leave us a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I would also like to take a moment to thank my absolutely amazing patrons whose support is always appreciated, especially those at my $10 a month tier who are Justine Ghosty, Rogue Threads, Chelsea Colvin, Fangirl X, and Sam M. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.